Empress Genevieve asked if the princess was in the imperial palace, to which the maid replied with her consent. The empress asked how long Liliana had been arriving at the palace. The maid said that Fernand had hurriedly brought the princess in the morning. Looking down and smiling, Genevieve said that this time Liliana had fallen under Fernand's suspicions. The maid told that the princess had left the palace at night. Passing by the guards and maids sent by the emperor, the empress looked at the maid. The woman laughed. She was interested in the fact that the princess was trying to get free from the emperor's supervision. The empress thought that the princess had become completely miserable and had gone mad. Having cut off the rosebud, Genevieve thought that for weak people, beauty is equal to shackles. The empress, saying that she had not been able to get in touch with her brother for several days, told the maid to deliver a letter ordering her to appear at the empress's palace, and the maid bowed and informed her that she would give it to the Marquis of Bridge. Opening the door, the maid reported that Dietrich was currently in audience with the emperor. Putting her hand to her cheek, Genevieve asked, she admired Winchester. The next moment, Genevieve was gloomy with anger, and the maids reported to her what Dietrich had arrived. The Archduke arrived at the palace with a marriage proposal. He wanted to marry the princess. The Archduke claimed that all the subjects and the Winchester family were asking the emperor for the princess to become a duchess. The emperor thought that Dietrich could become a pillar of the opposition, but now he asked Liliana. It seemed strange, but it played into Fernando's hands. He thought that he could learn Winter's secrets through the princess. Looking at Dietrich, the emperor was glad that he would be able to find out why Winter was subordinate only to Winchester. Looking sternly at the Archduke, the emperor informed Dietrich that the princess's wedding was to take place in 3 weeks. The Archduke told him that he had told Leon that he would not be able to carry out the order because the heart of Simpson Forest would soon open. Looking awkwardly at Winchester, the emperor realized that he had forgotten about this event in the city. Fernand knew that if the monsters in Winter were not stopped, the capital would be in danger. Covering his mouth with his fist, the emperor averted his gaze and told him that he had forgotten about the heart of the forest Simpson, promising that he would cancel the order. Dietrich interrupted him, saying that he would take the princess within 4 days if the emperor approved Dietrich's proposal. Looking at Winchester's calm face, Fernand said that it was the first time he had seen such a desire to get a woman on the part of Dietrich. The emperor asked the Archduke to leave him with the princess to discuss the marriage, because this is not an easy decision. Looking sternly at his daughter, the emperor called her by name as he approached her. Looking away, the princess responded. The princess looked completely indifferent. The emperor said that he would cancel the wedding with Leon, hide the night exit from the house. Liliana only needed to accept Dietrich's proposal. Raising her head, the princess looked at her father worriedly. Doubt could be read in her gaze. Looking sternly at his daughter, the emperor said that he understood the princess, but a husband in the person of the Archduke would be much safer. The emperor said that if the princess's husband died this time too, he would not force the princess to marry again. The princess was looking at the floor. Fernand said that he would not touch the princess again, and she would be free. He asked her to trust him. Remembering herself in the past, the princess remembered that she had believed her father unconditionally. Looking down, the princess agreed, saying that she would fulfill her father's will as before. The princess raised her head and looked at Fernand resolutely, declaring that she had a condition. Last night, the princess had asked the Archduke to come to the palace in person with a marriage proposal. The Archduke frowned at her, asking again. He did not understand why the princess needed this. Smiling, the girl said that it would be better if everyone believed that the Archduke wanted Liliana, stating that the emperor would not send the princess away if he could not control her. The heroine remembered that the emperor had always told her that there was nothing more stupid than a woman in love. The princess understood that in Fernanda's hands, she was just a doll, and she could not be loved. Liliana said that it would be better if the Archduke acted as if he was in love with the princess. Dragnia understood that her request was rude, and everyone would have believed it even if the Archduke had simply sent the letter, but the fact that Dietrich had come himself made the princess blush. The princess forced a tear, looking pitiful, and said that she was afraid she would not be able to get used to winter. Holding out his hand to his daughter, the emperor told Liliana of his confidence that she would enjoy it there. Covering her mouth with her hand, the princess said that she had already lost 5 husbands. She was already tired. The emperor was displeased that the princess complained in his opinion about such trifles. Wiping away a tear, the princess looked at the emperor indifferently, gloomy. Looking at her father, Liliana asked if she was right in saying that the emperor needed information about winter. The princess declared that she would bring her father everything he needed. In return, he should allow her to use her property on her own. Looking awkwardly at his daughter, the emperor asked her what she was talking about. The princess explained that if she went to distant lands without anything, she would be left penniless. Liliana said that she was already considered a witch, so there would be no one to accept her. Smiling, the princess asked the emperor not to interfere in her personal condition. The emperor silently listened to the princess, who said that she would begin to control her own property. Looking at his daughter, Fernand thought that she had changed a lot, but it was too late to do anything. The princess said that the property of her fifth deceased husband, the emperor, could consider her dowry. Fernand looked at Liliana incredulously, who said that this would be enough for her to survive in winter. Taking her father's hand, the princess asked him to trust her, declaring that she would not disappoint him. Dietrich nodded to the emperor, saying that he knew about it when Fernand said that he cherished Liliana. The emperor talked about allowing the archduke to marry his daughter. In exchange for canceling her sixth wedding, he asked what Dietrich could offer him. Grimacing, the princess thought about what her father wanted to get, because Dietrich's lands did not bring much income. Winchester said that when he arrived home, he would send the emperor several hundred chests of gold and many skins of various animals. The princess was shocked by so many gifts. One chest of gold was enough for a nobleman to live for a year, and one skin was worth much more than one chest. Looking at the emperor, the archduke said that the princess was worth much more, but he hoped that Fernand would take it as a token of gratitude. Looking back at the archduke, the emperor nodded, agreeing to such a gift. The princess, pursing her lips and stealing a glance at the emperor, called him a rude. Frowning, Winchester asked the emperor to leave him and the princess alone so that they could talk. Before leaving them, Fernand called himself inattentive, allowing them to talk. Dietrich thanked him for his courtesy. Closing his eyes, the archduke asked why the princess was silent. He was sure that this was exactly what the princess wanted. Looking away, Liliana said that Dietrich had crossed the line and gone too far when he mentioned his family, vassals, and others in his request. Taking out a piece of paper, the archduke said that the princess had asked Mary to take him to him. Smiling, the princess assumed that Dietrich was shocked by Liliana's actions. The archduke said that the princess was too reckless, asking what she would do if he just kept the document and didn't come. Smiling, the princess said that her assumptions had come true because the duke had arrived after all. Having said that the archduke could consider the army of the late Viscount Barley to be the dowry of the princess, she watched Dietrich. He did not deny this. Realizing that Dietrich might know about the number of soldiers in the army or even help assemble it, she put a document on the table, saying that she had already discussed everything with her father. Looking at the document, Winchester said that he would visit the palace again tomorrow. Saying goodbye to Dietrich, the princess got up from the sofa and asked him to take care of himself. The princess's heart beat faster. She was sure that her father would not oppose her. The only problem was Lian. The princess was interested in what he would do when he found out. Liliana was sure that Lian would not want to postpone this marriage because of Stan. Dragnia felt sorry for the child, but she was not going to sacrifice herself for him. Mary happily ran up to the princess with tears in her eyes. She was glad that she was fine. Putting her hand on Mary's shoulder, Liliana said that she had done well. Smiling sweetly, the maid was happy. Looking at the princess a little worriedly, the maid said that an adjutant was waiting for the princess inside. Smiling, Liliana thought that he was faster than she expected. Folding her hands into a lock, Mary announced that he looked angry, and the princess had better avoid him. Looking resolutely ahead, the princess asked to open the door for Mary with a smile on her face. Looking away, Liliana asked Lian to tell her that he wanted to leave. The princess folded her hands into the lock, thinking that she should not let her guard down in the palace. Sitting across from Lian, the princess knew that she no longer needed to be afraid of him, but that she could not stop waiting for something. Lian was gloomy, frowning at the princess he called her, to which he received permission to speak. Continuing to look at the girl, Lian asked if she knew who was supposed to be her fiancé. The princess said she didn't know, adding that it didn't matter if the wedding was cancelled. Without raising his head, Lian notified the heroine that he was her fiancé. The princess looked at him, wondering if this was really the case. The princess, smiling, asked Lian why he was telling her this. She wondered if he thought that the princess would disobey her father for him. Looking at the princess, Lian said that he could help her if she didn't want to go to winter. Trembling slightly, Lian explained that if the princess did not want to go to the city, then Lian would take her side, but the princess interrupted him. Tilting her head to the side, the princess smiled as she asked who said she didn't want to go there. Looking ahead, Liliana was surprised that she could be so calm with Lian. Sitting in front of him, the princess realized that every time she had been tormented either by resentment or by regret. The girl thanked God that she could tell him what she wanted to say in her previous life, going back 3 years. Looking innocently at Lian, the princess said that she would not marry him. She was glowing with happiness and relief when she said the cherished words. Lian was furious, shaking with anger, all the anger and hatred towards Liliana in his eyes. The princess was confident in her words, determination in her eyes as she said that she would rather die than marry him. Getting up from the couch, Liliana said that Lian dreamed in vain if he thought that he had a chance, asking him to leave. Jumping up from his seat, Lian screamed, trying to contradict the princess, but he failed. The princess stood up and, smiling, wished him to take care of himself, turning away from him. A little worried, Mary asked if everything would be okay, notifying Liliana that Lian had come out irritated. The princess said that the Archduke was really a terrible person, recalling the events of his past life. Touching her cheek, the princess said that Lian was not brave enough to disobey the emperor. With her back to Mary, Liliana thought that if Lian had been brave enough, he would have rebelled. Looking up, Liliana asked if Mary's brother was involved in herbs. Mary looked at the princess proudly, confirming this, telling her that her brother always took first place in the academy. Liliana thought that Lian had gained the emperor's support because of his interest in poisonous and medicinal herbs, but the princess realized that this was not enough to pass on the title to her son. Stan had no choice but to follow in his father's footsteps and start studying medicine too. Taking out the vial of the drug that the princess was given to drink, Liliana told Mary that she had a request. Mary asked the princess if it was the medicine that Lion and the emperor were giving her to drink. Confirming the words of the servant, Liliana asked her to find out what this medicine consisted of. Taking the bottle from the princess, Mary said that she would send it to her brother along with the letter. The princess said that new servants would arrive tomorrow on the orders of the emperor, so it would not be noticeable if Mary left. Mary thanked the princess and, saying goodbye to her, left Liliana's room. Looking out the window, the princess thought that she was lucky that Mary's brother was a talented man. Winter needed such people. The knights of the Archduke and Alex were shocked by the news that Dietrich was getting married, and the news that Princess Liliana would be the bride drove into them worries about the Archduke. Alex was shaking from the lack of understanding of the situation. He was interested in how everything came to this, because Dietrich himself said that Lian would be Lian's 6th husband. Winchester was completely calm, confirming Alex's words. He did not even hesitate. Remembering the previous evening, Alex asked if the princess had visited him for this. One of the knights, Fred, asked John for Alex's words, and also asked if the princess was really beautiful, as they say in rumors. Dietrich said that he understands how unexpected this news is, but it does not change the fact Liliana will become a duchess. Alex looked at the Archduke awkwardly as he said that they would return to Winter when the princess arrived. Continuing to look at Dietrich, Alex asked if he knew what rumors were circulating about the princess. Remembering the image of the princess, Winchester confidently said that he knew everything. Dietrich knew of 5 failed marriages in which husbands died the day after their wedding night, and he even assumed that the princess had killed them herself. Looking at Dietrich worriedly, Alex said that he was afraid that the princess would not be accepted because of the rumors. Looking at Alex, Winchester said that the rumors would disappear once everyone knew the truth. According to him, the princess was also ready for this. Alex suggested that the Archduke make a wedding gift for the princess, saying that she would need some of her personal belongings, notifying Dietrich that he would send a letter to Lord Majestic when the princess arrived. After thinking for a while, the Archduke asked again. Alex explained that at the wedding, according to the rules, you need to exchange gifts. After thinking for a while about the gift, the Archduke said that he would visit Ellis for this reason. Ellis, the owner of the jewelry store, greeted Winchester, inviting him to the window. Listening to Ellis's chatter, the Archduke thought about what he was doing now. He was embarrassed. After thinking for a couple of seconds, the Archduke decided that it was better for him to leave before he saw the sparkling product. Seeing Winchester's gaze fixed on the window, Ellis asked if the Archduke liked it. Guessing that the Archduke was looking for a gift, the hostess of the jewelry quickly packed the product. Looking at Ellis, the Archduke asked if there were any hospitals nearby, explaining that he needed medicine. Tilting her head to the side, Ellis looked curiously at Dietrich, asking what it was for. Dietrich said that the medicine was needed for a swollen cheek and a broken lip. He did not understand whether there was a wound inside. After selling the jewelry to Winchester, Ellis said that she had the product and explained how to use it. At night, the princess could not sleep. Sitting on the bed, she thought that she still had a lot to do. The princess was distracted from her thoughts by a knock on the door. When she turned her head in the direction of the noise, Liliana was informed that the Archduke had come to her. The princess was surprised by Dietrich's late visit. She was interested in why he had arrived. Throwing the cloth over her back and shoulders, the princess stood up and asked to tell Dietrich to wait a while, after which she allowed him to enter. Winchester immediately entered the chambers, having heard permission, agreeing with the princess. The princess asked worriedly about what had caused Dietrich's arrival. She was worried that the emperor might become angry. Looking calmly at Liliana, the Archduke said that Fernand had allowed him to visit the princess. Looking at Dietrich with concern, the princess asked if the emperor had really given permission. Pursing her lips, the princess wondered if the emperor should ruin the family's reputation in order to obtain information about Winter. The princess offered the Archduke to settle down as it was convenient for him, but did not offer tea, explaining that everyone was asleep now. Looking seriously at Dietrich, the princess asked him why he had come. Placing a small box on the table, the Archduke said that he had come to give it to the princess. After asking what was in the box, the princess opened it. There was a small hairpin. Looking at the blue emerald, the princess said that she had never seen a more beautiful stone. Closing his eyes convincingly, Dietrich told Liliana that the stone was the same color as her eyes. The princess asked again, to which she received an explanation. The Archduke said that when he saw the hairpin, he remembered the princess's eyes. Dietrich blushed Liliana with his words. The princess was thinking about what to do. She could misunderstand Winchester's behavior. Dietrich calmly looked at the girl, hearing that she would treasure this gift. Bowing her head, the princess asked what the Archduke had brought when she saw another box. Dietrich replied by saying that it was an ointment for the princess's abrasions and explained how to use it. Raising her hand to her lips, the princess thought that Dietrich was worried about her wound and thanked her for the ointment. Dietrich asked Liliana to apply the ointment in his presence so that he could make sure that the princess was using it. Using the ointment, the girl wondered if she was old-fashioned or if it was the Archduke who was too familiar with her. Hearing the princess hiccup, Dietrich became worried and asked if she was in pain. Smiling sweetly, Liliana said that it hurt a little, and she also thanked him for the ointment and hairpin. The princess was very surprised when Dietrich touched her face with his hand. After smearing the ointment, the Archduke sat back down. Removing his hand, he said that the ointment was smeared unevenly. The princess felt uncomfortable looking at Winchester. She quickly thanked him, stuttering slightly. Closing his eyes, Dietrich nodded to Liliana, telling her that he had nothing to thank him for. Clutching the shawl, the princess thought that what she was feeling now was a little strange. Sitting opposite the Archduke, Liliana informed him that she also had something to convey to Dietrich. Putting his hand on the document that was lying on the table, Winchester said that it was a contract. Liliana confirmed his words, saying that their marriage was unusual, but she used the word contract. Looking down, the princess said that she had thought that they should have a backup plan if the public became aware of it. Reading the document, Dietrich noticed that it contained many unfavorable points for the princess. The princess thought that if she did not take anything before her disappearance after 3 years of marriage to Dietrich, then she would atone for her guilt. Lowering her head, the princess asked the Archduke's consent to this treaty because it would be easier for her. Looking at the princess, the Duke said that from the clause about 3 years of marriage, you can understand that this is a contract. Saying that the 3 years of marriage had been mentioned orally, the Archduke crossed out the clause about it. Looking up, the princess asked what Winchester would do if she did not leave the duchy in 3 years. After saying that he would come up with something, Dietrich asked how he could understand point 7, which stated that they could not interfere in each other's private lives. Thinking that Dietrich could bring a mistress, As Leon did, the princess also thought that the Archduke could have a child. Lowering her head and closing her eyes, Liliana said that she did not want Dietrich's vassals to bother him about the heir because of her. Dietrich was upset that the princess had such an opinion of him, and he asked the princess not to worry about his vassals. The princess watched in silence as Winchester continued to cross out what he thought were unnecessary points. Raising his head, the Archduke said that one of the clauses stated that she could not own the Winchester property, and he asked if this meant that the princess was relinquishing the Duchess's authority as well. Covering her mouth with her hand, Liliana looked at the document awkwardly, thinking that she had been in too much of a hurry to put it together. Continuing to look at Dragnia, Dietrich said that this point is also superfluous. Liliana, silently, listened to what Dietrich said about her having to accept the power given to her in the future. The girl understood that Dietrich had in mind the role of the Grand Duchess, and this was a heavy burden for her. After signing the document, the princess thought about whether it looked like a contract marriage. As he was about to leave, Dietrich said that the contract would lie with the Archduke, and asked the princess to forget about its existence, simply fulfilling her role. Looking awkwardly at the man, Liliana thought about what had just happened. Dragnia replayed this meeting in her head. She thought about the fact that they had discussed the contract, and she had received the gift she was holding in her hands. Looking at the emerald the next day in the sun, the princess thought that it was beautiful. Liliana received something for the first time. Looking at a beautiful wedding dress, Liliana was offered to stop at it. Dragnia remembered that it was in this dress that the princess entered Leon's house. Looking at the servant, the princess ordered him to throw it away and make sure that it did not get into her luggage. Turning around, the princess thought that she did not want to drag unpleasant memories with her to winter. Choosing a blue dress with a black ribbon on the belt, Liliana said that she would wear it. Liliana asked to remove all jewelry from her hair, leaving only the hairpin that Dietrich had given her. The maid, combing the princess's hair, nodded, listening to Liliana's request. Looking at her reflection, the princess was smiling. She looked different from her marriage to Leon, and she liked it. Looking at the hairpin in her hair, the princess thought that the fact that Dietrich had memorized the color of the princess's eyes proved that he was more sensitive. Looking at Liliana, the maid bowed and said that it was time for the princess to go. Agreeing, Dragnia prayed that she would not return to the palace again. The princess was greeted by Winchester. With his hand in his chest, he greeted her. Liliana looked at the Archduke's outstretched hand in bewilderment. She did not understand what he wanted. Looking at the princess, Winchester explained that according to Winter's tradition, the groom should greet the bride. Understanding Dietrich's intentions, the princess held out her hand to him, thinking that this was only the beginning. The heroine thought that after that night she would become a Grand Duchess, not a princess. As she looked around the room, Dragnia thought that it was different from the one she had been in with Leon. The maids, bowing, said that all night the chambers would be guarded by the Knights of Winter and the Imperial Palace. After wishing the newlyweds good night, the maids left, leaving them alone. Looking at the floor, the princess could not stop worrying. Dietrich knew this as he looked at her. Looking straight ahead, the Archduke began to talk about how nervous he was before every battle. He said that no one dared to belittle a man who entered the battlefield again. With a laugh, the princess wondered if the Archduke was trying to calm her down with his words. Looking at Liliana, Dietrich asked if she wanted a glass of wine, to which Liliana replied that she did. Blushing with excitement, the princess thanked Winchester and drank some wine. Thinking of Dietrich, the princess reflected on the fact that he had done a lot for her. Holding the glass in her hand, Liliana said that she would do everything so that the Archduke would have no regrets. Hearing his name from the princess, the man looked at her, agreeing. When Liliana said that she was hot, Dietrich asked her again. He did not understand what it meant. Clutching a lock of hair in her hands, the princess repeated, saying that it was hot in the room. Her face was burning. The princess reached out to Dietrich, bringing her face closer to his. Winchester was stunned by such actions on the part of the princess. Squeezing Dietrich's clothes, Liliana said that it was stuffy in the chambers. The girl was too close. Approaching Dietrich more closely, the heroine tried to kiss him. She heard the beating.
Like this video. Hit the like button and subscribe for more videos.